Hello Internet, it's time for Wednesday's cereal. So today was 10:30 and I was in the real mood, real mood for a comic. But I didn't have any, so I swung by the bakery. Points if you get that. But I'm just feeling like, I love comics today, and I don't know, things have been kind of negative back and forth, I don't like this, I don't like that, but it's, I like it, but I only like it so far, and you gotta, good and bad, nothing's perfect, and so, I don't know, I was just feeling that way, went by the comic shop, and, got to talk to some people. There was a crazy signing with a couple of things I want to show you that was going on there, and then, I got to see good old Scorpio, a local artist who was just wandering around talking stuff, and that was awesome. And then got to talk to this high school teacher who's teaching graphic novels at the high school and kind of teaching it as like at a collegiate level, but gearing them up for college and teaching comics that way, which is really great because around here there's recently been a whole big thing about Comic Book Classroom, which is teaching kids to read through comics, which is great, but it kind of also helps build the stigma that comics are just for kids. And, so it was good to get a bit more of that other side. Here's some of that, and it's just like, yeah, comics. And then I found a cool few things before I get to reviews, comics-wise, to show you guys too that I want to talk about there. So yeah. So then the first bit was I got this cool little print, and all in association with this comic, Shadow Devils, which has Theodore Daniel across there, who's a guy around here, and Grumfriend from Byron Frame, who it's these comics out through slave labor graphics. You can find them online, usually easier, I imagine. I was able to get print because he's local, so it's easier that way. But some interesting stuff, and I definitely, from where he began to where he is now, you can see him grow as an artist, but it's like interesting stuff and definitely all horror based, and excited to read that and do something different. So if you're looking for something really different, let's see here, Mother Mind Studios, but yeah, Shadow Devils, and it's a $3.99 comic, but it's huge and independent, so, support that. And the other thing is for everything that went on in Aurora, obviously, they're having this benefit concert, Rise, or not concert as much as just local comic creators and stuff, and it's there to support them, and I think that's really cool. There's another one that's going on that happens in Denver that involves Matt Fraction, Mike Mignola, and that's cool as well, though there's been a weird thing going on with the whole Aurora thing where, like, actors from the Batman franchise came out and they got all this media attention because they were out in Colorado. It was a little more about that than about the tragedy, which was kind of weird, and a lot of that stuff, I don't know, that whole thing has just been very weird, especially because I have, ties to the comic community here, and it's been a thing, and it's unfortunate, and of course, 3 degrees from people on both ends involved, and back to Fantasy Comic World, which is where I spend far more time than reality. I was talking to that high school teacher. He sold me on the idea of picking up these concrete trades, which are in the half-off graphic novel selection. Let's see here. Yeah, apparently these are harder to come by now and all that, but I've heard for years that concrete's great, and I always thought, when I'm older, maybe would appreciate something like that, and I don't know, it just seemed like the time was right and get into something a little more different, especially now that I'm trying to find different things. So there we go. So I'm looking forward to reading some concrete, see how that goes. The other thing I picked up, because I didn't have a copy of it, you might have heard of this one, Batman The Dark Knight Returns. I remember reading this back in high school at the library of all places. Imagine that. And I don't know, I mean, I liked it, but to me it wasn't whatever Batman was about, and really played into the idea that I didn't like Superman or Batman all that much. But I was like, it's a decent comic, that's cool, and I enjoyed it, but then right after I read the sequel, which is, don't ever touch that. It'll ruin you. But with the animated special coming out, hearing Bruce Timm and all these people who are associated with everything that I love about Batman talk about this book, gearing up for that, man, I couldn't wait. And side note to that, the Superman versus the Elite special that came out, amazing. It's the best Superman story ever told, and they kind of expound and play with it. So, that's awesome, right? Then the other one was, before I bring it out, when I was growing up and I had no friends. I had friends. No friends into comics. Just reading a little bit of Wizard, if I ever got to peek or maybe hear something in the comic shop or things like that, or just through Hubbub, there's a few things going on at the time and a few comics that I heard I needed to read. This, of course, was one of them, but, didn't get to that. Didn't get to Watchmen till later for obvious reasons. When you're 8 years old, I shouldn't read Watchmen yet. Plus, I wouldn't appreciate it at all. Heard bits about, Trans Men Preacher, but I read those when I was in college, and that was all well and good. But there's some other stuff, the big mainstream stuff. Mostly within Marvel, honestly. There was some Ninja Turtle stuff that I knew I had to read, but I got that as it came. City at War being the big one. The big one. I still love that. But Maximum Carnage was the big Spider-Man one, or The Boy Loves Spider-Man, or The Death of Jean DeWolf, stuff like that. Or within X-Men, it was really only the Age of Apocalypse, Days of Future Past, and then kind of whatever's going on at the time, some weird Claremont stuff, and hearing that I need to read the Claremont Wolverine Weapon X stuff, which I got to some of those later, and that did not live up to anything. But one that was always kind of outside of my realm that I never really got to, that I'm kind of excited because I saw it here for cheap, was the Judas Contract. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be kind of a trip back, which is good, actually. I just finished reading The Squadron Supreme, thanks to Hellermouse, and I'm looking forward to reading something maybe a touch more in that era. Not that these two are related, really, near as I know, and I still need to do a review of The Squadron Supreme, because there's a lot of stuff in there, and oh my god, and I need to do reviews, but yeah, no, time. It's hard, and it's hard to find something intelligent to say sometimes, which I never do, so I guess I should just give up on that notion, right? That's the question for the week. Comments below, huh? So anyways, theme of the week, loving comics. I want to talk a little bit about why I love some of what I'm picking up before I actually delve in. So, first up is Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. Now, I love Deadpool a lot. He's not always my favorite character, but he's usually up there. When he's written right, he's amazing. Even when he isn't written right, he's still fun most of the time. And this book is just fun, but also kind of gets at the heart of Deadpool and perception and insanity and being quippy, but at the same time being one of the most crazy, deadly ninja types there. And it's not the complete love of that I have of Deadpool, but it's such a fun comic, and just that sheer, just visceral stabbiness, and if you've ever read the Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe, the old one, not the weird new one that was decompressed for a dumb one-away story. It's just that idea of, what do you do? And some of those beats are similar, but the way it plays is just, it makes it a fun story, right? And seeing him take out the Avengers is such a crazy, nifty idea, though the Wolverine one's weird because they're playing with the healing factor too much, and he got his healing factor from Wolverine, so I would like to see more of that. I don't know, but it's cool, so yay! So every now and again, I'll see something a little different, and it's fun to pick up random comics from random publishers that probably aren't going to exist in 2 years, just to read something different, something fun, and not deal with all the superhero minutia. Don't get me wrong, we all love the superheroes, but something different. So I picked this up, Irresistible, which, you know, not for the kids. I don't know, this comic wasn't, well, it's kind of racy, but it's like PG-13-ish. And yeah, I don't know, just the whole like love potion idea is something that's, those stories I always find fun, whatever. There's not all that many of them really. And yeah, I mean, this one really just follows this guy, and he's heartbroken, loved this girl forever, and is doing all the things you're not supposed to in the breakup, and he doesn't save this woman back out. He sees her getting beat up, and he tries to help, and he gets the crap kicked out of him, which helps her because it gives enough time for the cops to come by. And she's like, well, can I do anything to repay you? I'm not rich. And he's like, no, what I want is just, you know, for women to love me or whatever. Don't worry about it. I'm just kind of griping about life, whatever. And so turns out she's a witch, and she casts a spell on him that makes him irresistible. So first issue is mostly the setup. I'm going to have to put in order with my comic, with my, you know, local comic shop, because I doubt I'll necessarily be able to just find a second issue of this. So I don't know, interesting, fun, something different at the very least, right? Yeah. So the next book is something, and talking about loving comics, this whole, you know, YouTube community thing that we're a part of right now is great. And every now and again, you know, you pick up a book because of these people, right? Right? Huh? Pretty much everyone I know is like, Earth 2 is great! And I was like, DC is bull right now. But you hear it enough times, and part of the reason to pick it up at first, I thought it was a $3.99 book, because the first issue is $3.99. It's $2.99. Okay, whatever. One issue for $3.99, fuck fine, but I think their advertisers need to realize that when people look at the first issue and they see $3.99, nowadays they assume it's going to be $3.99. If I see an issue one for $2.99, I'm going to assume the rest of them are going to be $2.99. So you start at $2.99 and you move to $3.99. The second issue, people are gonna get pitchforks and fires. Anyways, Earth 2 has been amazing. I just caught up on the first 3 issues yesterday. I think the issues I have are technically second prints. Oh well. But, oh my god, it's doing everything that I wanted the DC 52 relaunch to do. You're playing with new characters, you're playing with the origins and tropes in a way that, yeah, we understand, we've kind of seen this before, but oh my god, it's so fresh and original. For the most part, I am sick of origin stories, but at the same time, how many of the origin stories that come out are Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman? And honestly, you know, the Green Lantern one. I mean, how many times have we seen those stories over and over and over? Oh my god, nobody cares. Not anymore. But playing with the origins in here, that's a huge part of what they do with Green Lantern versus Flash in the earlier issues. This fourth one, oh my gosh, they just kind of throw in the Atom. By the time they're catching up on the JSA, we're going to be in like the 3rd arc of this book. It's amazing, and they're taking time to develop characters. They're developing characters that are not Batman or Superman. And Wonder Woman keeps a little more, but she's not in there, okay. And then I guess Supergirl and Huntress Robin ladies out. Boom. That's all like first issue stuff. But I mean, this one, just like seeing Hawkgirl, and you finally get a sense of where she is from this universe, which is unlike anything else, and no mention of Hawkman, which is great, because as much as I love comic book continuity, Hawkman and the Summers family, bit much to bear. I can stomach through the Summers family because I love most of those characters, but yeah. Anyways, oh my gosh, this is doing everything that, you know, like playing with these universe and these characters in new ways is supposed to do, and the art, I mean, Nicola Scott is awesome, and very much, you know, DC house style sort of stuff, which for this book is exactly what you need. I mean, you couldn't do better. You can't do better if you're picking up DC Comics than picking up this book. There is no better DC book right now, period. Not saying it's a hugely amazing, I mean, it's a great comic, but it's not like, you know, upper echelons, but is the best thing DC is putting out right now, hands down. Totally check it out if you can. If you're not, although everyone I'm talking to, I'm pretty sure has. So there you go. So for the next one, I'm going to take you way back. There used to be, is no more, used to be a YouTube channel like 8 years ago called Dylan Directs, where this guy just, before it was hip, before it was cool, just hopped online, would just talk about nerdy things, but he'd break it up into segments. He'd talk about like comics, TV, and stuff, but it was all very relevant, a bit more well-spoken, a touch more produced than most things we do. But it got me really interested in kind of what had me think, what if I just hopped on YouTube and talked about comics and saw if people wanted to watch it or something? Crazy. No, that would never work. I'd never waste my time with that. And then I went back a year later to go find him after college, because I saw one that kind of let it be, and then after college I was bored. And I was looking for more, and I looked into it, and there's this guy called Gramland Comics. Well, not the guy, but the channel. And he was reviewing comics. He was out in the middle of nowhere states, and he was just talking about comics, and he had a very great way of doing little skit stuff sometimes. It was awesome. I kind of caught the last year of it before he gave up and he had to move, and supposedly that shop was going to continue doing it, but they gave up, which kind of sucks, because I know there's a lot of shops that do it now, kind of do what we talk about, but never anything negative. But they do it, and that's all well and good. I know Tifa does one, but I gave up on that one a while ago. And yeah, it was really interesting, but that guy was cream of the crop, like one of the best reviewers I'd ever seen. He was willing to, be like, I'm not so into this book right now, and then he'd always like do something else instead. But it was great. But one book that he always recommended that I was kind of like, on the, before I was getting into more of the independent stuff, that he always talked about, that kind of caught my interest after like 3 months of hearing it. I was like, okay, fine, I'll check it out. Atomic Robo. Every month I come on here, every month I tell you people, this is like the best comic book. I don't know if it's like perfectly fine for all ages, but most. And if you're competently reading, 5th grade level or whatever the hell that was by the time I figured I could read, and I just read novels, and they're like, oh my gosh, and I was like, it's just more pages. It's not like it's any harder. I don't know. But yeah, if you're there, you're fine. Different time areas, playing with scientific concepts, and then straight up sci-fi, great characterizations, always has at least like a good laugh per issue, and just this is everything comic books should be. And they even make it easier for you. Oh, I've never picked up Atomic Robo before. Oh look, it is volume 7, issue 2 of 5. I guess volume 7 is the Flying She-Devils of the Pacific. This is a book you should be picking up. I'm not even going to justify it this month because I've spent so much time telling you people, this book is everything right with comic books, everything beautiful and wonderful, and the fact that I've convinced no one else to pick it up makes me cry. And I'm glad, because this is a comic that Red 5 is surviving on right now, basically, and they have some other stuff that sells decently and all that, but I mean, this is their one that totally works, and it's awesome, and I wish more people would realize how awesome it is, because it's fun and it's intelligent, and yes, I mean, oh my god. And of course the Atomic Robo anthology book. But if you want to hear my love of anthologies and all that, you'll have to tune into last week's episode where I rambled about that there. I'm saving time. So another great thing about comics is they can take time to do stuff different. You can't do that in a movie or a book. Rarely in a cartoon or anything that has so much editorial production or anything, but sometimes there just has to be a good issue. And Batman 12's great, because it has next to nothing to do with Batman, but someone wanting to help Batman. It's more of a Brian, like if Brian Wood's demo met Batman. That's probably a terrible way to say it, but it's a great Scott Snyder issue. Yeah, but I don't know, just getting into and reading these Batman books, it's been fun and different and weird for me to be liking a Batman book, and everyone else has been liking that book, but I have to say it's really Minutia Minute who pushed that on me, because he loves Batman more than anyone else, I think. Maybe they know a little bit more, but that passion's there, so yeah, I don't know, it's a good book. It's a good book, and this issue in particular, even if you're not a fan, but you like a bit more of the human element tied with superheroes, this is just a fun issue. So, Buffy, people aren't necessarily loving the direction, but I have to say, you know, the whole seed thing, magic being destroyed, vampires being weird, sometimes it's okay to let some new ideas play out. Things will usually reset themselves, but right now this arc is so weird and playing with an idea of Buffy past where Buffy was, like, it's just interesting to see something just completely move forward. And yeah, it takes a literal, like, year to get past some of this, because an arc's like 6 issues, and so 2 of those take a year. But, you know, as long as the ride's good, right? And you just gotta just, you know, enjoy it for what it is at the time sometimes. And it can be good, and sometimes we get harped up on the details. That's sometimes where negativity is where it doesn't need to be. So the Daredevil annual's out, and it's part of a bigger clandestine-based story by Alan Davis across 3 annuals. Seems to be a model Marvel's doing. Let a guy run with 3 annuals and tell a weird little story with a lot of characters. I don't know. It's weird. It reads a lot more like a 90s comic. Weird dialogue pacing and weird references back to comics that probably can't find anymore. Because they're probably from the 90s. But I don't know. It's just kind of weird and different, but not, you know, I mean, if you're kind of like, I don't know about the annual, and it's probably, you know, find something else. So the big one this week, Gambit. And I don't know, it was a fun comic, kind of a thieving idea. Play more with that and let him do his own thing and not trying to be so tied to the X-Men. And they've tried it before, but always playing a bit more of the superhero angle. This should be a little different. Yeah, here's hoping that they're able to keep it up. And so far it's fun. It's not like on the Thief of Thieves level of planning or anything, but they kind of talk about that, about how it needs to be in the moment. Otherwise you can't really plan ahead, which, I don't know, works for the character and makes it exciting all the way through. The art's a little weird for part of it, but it seems to get good. I don't know, kind of that weird Photoshop-y ink feel going on, but yeah, you know, something different and new. And if you're wondering about this, I'd say if you're thinking of something a little different from Marvel, this is definitely the one right now. Although, I don't know, I mean, so far I have to say the first issue of Hawkeye a little above, so there's that going right now. So Scarlet Spider is a Spider-related book, as you all know, and I love Spider-Man. I'm picking up most of it. Amazing, Venom, this, and, you know, side things, and sometimes I feel like, you know, it's a little too much of the same sometimes. And I realized that this book was kind of, I don't know, lowest among them, though, compared to 2 books that I hold in very high esteem, that was kind of natural, that one was going to fall a chunk lower. But this book has a special place with me because, I mean, they're in Houston, right? They're not in New York, and they're really playing off that in all these brilliant ways. They're playing off this idea of Spider-Man, if, you know, no responsibility, but there's responsibility in weird ways. And it's just, like, different character, and also the idea that so much of what goes on in New York, you know, the heroes that they have to play with are the heroes they have to play with, but this feels a little more like a little bit of that old school love, because they just introduce a pile of new superheroes because they're in the city and they need more characters to deal with, so new ideas and something with a little local flavor, right? And that's part of the beauty of this. I mean, it's its own book in so many ways, and it lets so much more seep in and make you realize just by contrast and comparison, like, you know, what's going on in all the super books makes you see how weird and ridiculous it is. And yeah, it's very much like 90s Spider-Man or whatever, but that's the fun of it, is it's just fun stories in a different light, in a different way, and it's just a different character, and it's not trying to be anything more than that. And it has a bit more of that cartoony feel, probably because Yost has a long line of history with the cartoon end of, the superhero stuff, so there you go. One thing that's great in comics, but a bit bittersweet, is when you see something a little new, a little different, or something with the character you love, and you have that run. You have that chunk of issues that really defines a character for you above all. When one writer, maybe an artist with them, just takes a character and defines it for you to a point where maybe you're getting some of that stuff later on because you just love it so much, and a little bit's trying to recapture it, but it's there, and it's special. And I didn't know it, but issue 22 signals the end of Remender's run on Venom. And it's been a hell of a ride. It made a character that I didn't care about, either of them, Flash or Venom, putting it together, making all that into something that really did a lot for that end of the Marvel Universe. It really allowed something special to happen there, and to see it see it here and wonder, what's next there. It's interesting. I'm hoping that this book doesn't simply become a casualty of Marvel now, but instead hopefully goes on. Hopefully someone else can do something important. There's so much setup right now that if you get the right writer, it doesn't even have to be Remender. I still feel this could be a powerful book, but we'll see. And it's definitely going to continue. There's a team up lined up with this and Scarlet Spider, and see how that goes. But I don't know, it's a good run, and so there's always that, but it kind of sucks to have to say, that's it. Just kind of out of nowhere, before it really had its due. That's it. So, And the last thing I picked up that I want to talk about real quick, I haven't actually read these yet, but The Massive, another Brian Wood story. And one thing that Brian Wood does is, it's pretty much his corner right now, but there are other people, is taking, pseudo-political ideas in fiction and just kind of, it has an agenda, but it's really good writing for it because there's passion. Sometimes the characterization gets swept up in the moment, but it has this point to make. And it's some of the best fiction. I'd like to see a little bit more of stuff like that. Local, DMZ, what have you. This one looks to be a very much environmental message, but kind of in the wake of, well, if the Earth is pretty much done for, what's the point? Why fight? Which, I don't know, I have a lot of friends who don't like their comics to be too serious, too heavy, and I understand that at times, but it's sad to me when people disregard books for having a message or for having a stance and kind of going out of their way to put it out there and then work it in and then have things revolve around that. Because that's such a great... I mean, if you're going to argue for fiction and comics and all that to be, something important, something human and needed almost, that storytelling element, why it matters, why it's not just escapism, pure entertainment, but why it's actually stories that are something that can mean something. You need it to mean something. So... it's not always handled in the best way. Not everyone's perfect, but a lot of these stories that have something more can have a sense of importance after you read it. And that's another thing that I love about comics, is they're able to work that in, sometimes let images do so much more than any narrative can, but also let you kind of pace it yourself so you can absorb it in a way that a documentary can't. And there's so many things like that, and just so much that the medium has to offer in that regard. So I'd be curious to hear, I've been reading so much and I'm swamped with stuff, but I mean, I want to hear about some stuff, some comics you guys think of when you think of just comics that you just love no matter what, and just stuff like that, and kind of like what keeps you coming back. I mean, why comics, right? And that, so I don't know, I'd be curious to hear why you guys think that, and just I hope you guys liked your stack as much as I did this week. Hope you had some moments recently to kind of, that you remember, you know, why this is such a thing for you. So yeah, I hope you had a great comic week, and I'll be back soon with some form of a comic review. Peace.